My name is Jeffrey Reed. I'm a program manager focused on monitoring and troubleshooting with Microsoft Lync. Troubleshooting a server product can seem like a daunting task. You can't always leave logging on. You might fill up a hard disk, or you might have logs that roll over before you have a chance to collect them. And so you might be missing the data that you really need. Microsoft Lync makes troubleshooting a complex system easy. All you have to do is you set up your monitoring server to collect the most useful call details. And then you use the monitoring server reports that can help you analyze them a lot more easily in a non-technical fashion. Today we're going to look at how the Lync 2010 server uses the monitoring server reports for support personnel. And we're going to start by looking at this user activity report link, which is our main portal for support personnel. Today we're going to investigate a call from Jeffrey1126 who reported that he had a poor quality call on April 17th around 10 a.m. So we're going to go into the filters here and just enter the information with the timestamps of the call that we had. Once we've entered in all the information for Jeffrey, we're going to go over to the View Report link and click it. This will bring up the User Activity Report. User Activity Report will show us all calls that Jeff had between 10 a.m. and 10:15 a.m. and also any conferences he might have joined. In this case, Jeffrey didn't join any conferences at those times, so we don't show him. What we do see is that Jeffrey joined two different phone calls. First phone call that we see is a call that Jeffrey received from outside of his company. And the second call is a call that Jeffrey placed outbound to the same phone number. The call that Jeffrey complained about was actually his first call, so we're going to go ahead and dig into that one. And how we do that is we mouse over the detail link and click it. This brings up the peer-to-peer session detail report. This report contains a summary of Jeffrey's peer-to-peer call. And it contains a lot of different information. For instance, it contains the pool FQDN. And this is the set of servers that Jeffrey was joined. Specifically, he was joined to one in North America, that he was specifically linked to the first front end on that pool. We see that the outside user initiated the call around 10:07 a.m. and Jeffrey accepted the call about 4 seconds later. The call ended at 10:11, so it tells us he had a call that lasted about 4 minutes. The call came in from this external phone number and was routed into Jeffrey, who was using Microsoft Lync 2010. Jeffrey was signed in as an internal user, which means he wasn't remote, and so we know that he was inside of our enterprise when we were having this issue. We get the list of VoIP information, which is the set of servers that were used to route this phone call in from outside the enterprise. We see two rows for diagnostic reports. The first row is an invite. And the invite's what used to actually establish the call. When we mouse over, we can see that the call received a 200 response. And if we mouse over that, it brings up a tooltip which shows us an OK message, which tells us that the call established OK. We also see this row that has a bye, which indicates that the call was terminated. If we mouse over the diagnostic code associated with this, it pops up another tooltip which tells us that the call was terminated by the user. But Jeffrey complained actually about not necessarily the call being established or dropped, but the overall quality and how that call sounded. So what we're going to do is we're going to expand the section called the Media Quality Report and dig in and look at the details here. These details contain information like the URIs again. We see also that it contains information like the user's IP address and the MAC address of the device. But what's interesting is we see this one that says Jeffrey was on a Wi-Fi connection. So he was using wireless when he was trying to place this call. Let's find out more details about what's going on. Let's scroll down. The report contains tons of metrics, and there's a lot of good detail in here, but often the descriptions that go with them are a little bit cryptic. So what we added in the monitoring server reports is that you can mouse over any of these metrics and get a tooltip to tell you more about what's going on. Let's take a look at echo. Echo says that it might occur when your speaker is too close to your microphone, which would cause a loop. When we take a look at Jeffrey's devices, we see that he's using an internal microphone on his laptop, and he's also using his speakers. So this kind of goes along with the fact that we're seeing a high echo rate here of 93%, is that his microphone and speakers are probably close enough that they're causing this loop. But that's not the issue that Jeffrey was describing. So let's scroll down and see if we can find out more information. We get to this Callee Client Event section. These are notifications that the Microsoft Lync client would bubble up to Jeffrey to show him things that he could do to improve the overall quality of his own call. This section shows each notification and how long it was shown up during Jeffrey's call. If we mouse over CPU insufficient time, it tells us that Jeffrey would have experienced poor quality of his call because another program on his machine is consuming all of his resources. This would mean that the Lync client was unable to process audio and present it in a manner that Jeffrey could hear what was going on and understand the call that's coming into him. But that looks okay. Let's scroll down and take a look at the poor network quality event. That one seems like it has a high rate. Poor network quality, if we mouse over, is telling us that something's going on with Jeffrey's network connection. Given the fact that we already know he has a Wi-Fi connection, this seems a little suspect. But let's find out more. There's a lot of metrics here. How am I supposed to understand what all of these different values mean? What's a good value? What's a bad value? Well, Microsoft Lync takes care of that for us with something called highlighting. We go through and we look at the numbers and we've evaluated them and started highlighting things that we think would actually cause poor quality for your end user. So it takes a lot of the guessing work out of troubleshooting. We use two colors. We use yellow, which means something's a little bit borderline and could be causing a problem, but we're not really sure. Or we use red, which means the metric definitely fell outside of normal boundaries and would definitely cause a poor quality. So in this case, we see that we have this metric that's highlighted in yellow. It's called average concealed samples ratio. But I don't really know what that means, so let's go ahead and mouse over and find out. The tooltip that comes up tells us that the average concealed samples ratio is actually Microsoft Lync trying to make up for other issues that are happening and trying to make a sound better. For instance, if you have a network issue, according to this, could actually, we could have drop packets. And if you have drop packets, well, Microsoft Lync's going to try to make a sound in between those two packets so it sounds like you have a complete word, and we're filling in the gaps. So what this tells us, when we look at this in the full context of what we found out so far, is that we're highlighting and saying Lync is having to do a lot of filling in the gaps. And when we looked at before, we saw there was a wireless connection that this user was on, and he had a constant notification on the client side which said that he was having poor network quality. So this gives us a pretty good idea about what's happening with his experience. Hopefully this gives you an idea about the power of Lync 2010 troubleshooting. For additional information on the reporting capabilities in Lync Server 2010, visit TechNet and search for Monitoring Server Report content.